Hey data buds, welcome back to Dad, Dogs, and Data. Today I'm going to show you how to take your data in Power BI and bring it into Excel. Now why is this important? Think about end users consuming data within your organization. How many of them have Microsoft Excel experience? I'm guessing there are many users who are advanced or even experts with Microsoft Excel. You want to enable these users as much as possible when consuming data. This provides a self-service effectiveness model and can promote consuming data that is managed by Power BI, but used in a tool that the end user is more comfortable with. Power BI is a great tool on its own, but when used with Microsoft ecosystem applications, they are better together.
Like yourself.
There are three main ways to get data into Excel from Power BI. And guess what? You don't even need to open Power BI to access data. You can do this all from Excel desktop or Excel for the web. Now the first way is through Excel pivot tables. Using the Excel connector, you connect to the Power BI semantic model, and using the pivot table interface, you can drag and drop measures and columns to plot out your visual. The second way is through Excel connected tables. This is actually a new feature that was released back at the end of 2023. A connected table is using the same connector as pivot tables, except you use a table wizard to bring the columns and measures into a flat table format. One thing to note about connected tables is that they are not as adjustable like pivot tables. So if you want to change the field structure, you have to execute the wizard all over again. The third is using the cube functions in Excel. This way is slightly more advanced. However, you can be super creative with your layouts. I recommend to any financial accountant that has customized layouts for month-end reporting, such as income statements, balance sheets, cash flows, etc., to take a closer look at option 3 as it'll have great potential for you. Fun fact number 1, did you know that using the Excel connector for Power BI actually creates a live connection to the data model? That's right. As your data is updated in Power BI, you can refresh your Excel workbook and all the new data comes in automatically. Stop wasting all your time on manually downloading data into Excel and let the power of automation give you back time for more coffee breaks. Let's jump over to my machine and I can show you how each of these three ways work. I have a blank Excel workbook open. I'm going to run this demo in the desktop application. As I said earlier, all three of these examples can be done through Excel for the web. For example number 1, you need to start by connecting to Power BI. In the ribbon, go to Data, then Get Data, Power Platform, and you will see the Power BI icon. Click on this. We want to search for the semantic model artifact that contains the data we want to visualize. You can see the Power BI artifact is like a card-like interface. In the card, you can see tables within the model and the Power BI report links that are also connected to this model. Pretty cool that you can jump right into Power BI from Excel too. However, what we want is just below. See these two cool buttons? Let's hit the pivot table button. What just happened is Excel has made a connection right to Power BI and embedded it with your workbook. Now you can drag and drop these columns and calculations in the pivot table interface. Nice and easy. Let's execute example number 2. If you recall, on the Power BI artifact card, there was another button next to the pivot table button. This is what we want to hit this time. The Create Table Wizard will now display. This interface is awesome. You can build a detailed table, or you can pick a few columns and calculations, which will summarize the data. As I mentioned earlier, the table function, you cannot alter the table structure after execution. So if you want to change, you just have to run through the wizard again. I'm hoping that this will actually change in the future. Now that your data is loaded into Excel, you can sort, filter, add calculations, or even take this data and make it into a pivot table. Let's not forget, the table will also update with changes when Power BI updates. Fun fact number 2, with your Power BI connection into Excel being live, it also comes back with all the security and governance that you've set up in Power BI. Row level security, sensitivity labels, all come into Excel. This is another reason why you should keep all your data in Power BI and stop exporting it. For our final demo, we're going to execute cube functions in Excel. As I said before, this is a little bit more advanced. So I've set up the Excel workbook earlier, mainly to make sure this demo works pretty smooth. The first thing you need to do is execute the pivot table step connection that I did in example 1, as you still need to create the connection within the Excel workbook to the Power BI artifact. As you can see, I have set this up. On this tab, I have set up a couple of points where I'm going to enter the cube function, but I have another tab that expands into other visuals. Two cube functions that I use the most are cube value, which is a calculation against filters, and cube member, which calls dimension values within the semantic model. You can also use cube value and cube member together in one function as you set up in-cell dimensions to filter the calculation through different cells. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how this works. At the bottom of this tab, I have a pivot table connected to the semantic model, so that as I write the cube functions, we can make sure to check it against the right value. Let's start with cube value. As with all Excel functions, as you type, it will show the options of the value, so you can easily hit tab and it will autofill the section. As you can see, my value is matching to my pivot table so that I've written the measure correctly. Now let's look at cube member. Now let's put it all together. What I'm going to do is use cube value and reference the cube member dimension, which will use it as a filter. Pretty cool how this works. Let me switch over to another tab where I've expanded this into a larger example. In this tab, I've plotted out a monthly and yearly summary breakdown of the different accounts and WBSs. I'm using a cube member function to reference the dimension data and then using cube value to write a calculation, but filter through another cell value. This is pretty static. However, you can create slicers or even drop downs in cells which can switch out dimension values. In this case, I'm using the year value at the top of the visual. As I switch between the year 2020 and 2021, you can see the data is automatically updating. There you have it, data buds. 3 great ways to use Excel with Power BI without manually downloading data. Remember, Power BI is great alone, but with the Microsoft ecosystem, it is better together.
Like yourself.